The massive doors of the Federation Council Chamber opened with a sound that echoed through the vast hall. Minho walked forward, his steps measured and calm. Behind him came Yuna and Commander Hyan, both carrying themselves with quiet confidence. The chamber was enormous, far larger than any building on Earth. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers, and sitting in those seats were creatures from across the galaxy. Some had scales, others had fur, and many looked like nothing humans had ever imagined. Minho had prepared for this moment his entire career. Earth's first contact with alien life had happened 6 months ago, and now humanity was being invited to join the Galactic Federation. It should have been a moment of celebration, but something felt wrong. The way the alien delegates looked at them reminded Minho of how adults looked at children who had wandered into an important meeting. At the center of the chamber sat the High Council, composed of the eldest and most powerful species in the Federation. Counselor Vorith, an insectoid creature with multiple eyes and clicking mandibles, spoke first. His voice came through a translator device that made it sound cold and mechanical. Humanity of Earth, you stand before 847 civilized species. We have watched your world for 2 centuries. We have seen your wars, your violence, your primitive struggles. Yet we also see potential. You have reached the stars faster than most species. You have unified your world under a single government. This is why we offer you membership as a probationary species. Minho bowed his head slightly, showing respect without submission. The people of Earth are honored by this invitation, Counselor Vorith. We are eager to learn from the Federation and contribute what we can. Another counselor stood up, this one resembling a tall, luminous being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form. The process is simple. Human ambassador. All new species must submit their complete technological databases, military capabilities, genetic information, and historical records to the Federation Archive. This ensures transparency and allows us to properly integrate your species into galactic society. It also helps us identify any potential dangers you might pose to yourselves or others. Yuna leaned close to Minho and whispered something. He nodded almost imperceptibly before responding. We appreciate the Federation's thoroughness. However, humanity would prefer a more gradual integration process. We can provide general information about our civilization, but complete data access would require more time and consideration. The chamber fell silent. It was the kind of silence that pressed down like physical weight. Thousands of alien eyes focused on the 3 humans standing at the center of the hall. Vorith's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Ambassador Minho, you misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. This is standard protocol. Every species that has joined the Federation in the past 1,000,000 years has complied without question. Transparency is the foundation of our society. What reason would humanity have to refuse? Commander Hyan's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He was a military man, trained to recognize threats, and right now every instinct told him they were being tested. Minho kept his expression neutral. We mean no disrespect, Counselor. Human culture values privacy and autonomy. We need time to discuss this with our people. Surely the Federation can accommodate such a reasonable request? A different counselor spoke up, this one resembling a massive creature covered in thick fur. In the history of the Federation, no species has ever refused the integration protocol. Your refusal suggests 2 possibilities. Either humanity is too primitive to understand the necessity of cooperation, or you are hiding something that poses a threat to galactic civilization. Which is it, Ambassador? Yuna stepped forward before Minho could respond. Her voice was clear and carried across the vast chamber. Perhaps there is a third possibility. Perhaps humanity simply wishes to be treated as equals rather than subjects. We did not travel across space to surrender our sovereignty. We came to build partnerships. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates. Some sounded approving, but most sounded shocked or offended. Vorith leaned forward, his multiple eyes fixed on the humans. You speak of equality, but you have only just achieved faster-than-light travel. Species in this chamber have been exploring the stars for millions of years. Your planet has been unified for barely a century, while our civilizations have known peace for eons. You have nothing to teach us, but much to learn. Your reluctance troubles us. Minho decided it was time to push back, gently but firmly. Counselor Vorith, I understand your concern, but consider this from our perspective. You have observed Earth for 200 years. You have seen our history, our struggles, our achievements. Yet you invite us here and immediately demand we expose every secret, every vulnerability, every capability we possess. Would any species in this chamber do the same if they were in our position? The luminous counselor flickered with what might have been surprise. Your species survived multiple extinction events according to our records. 3 times your civilization nearly ended, yet you rebuilt each time. Most species do not survive even one such catastrophe. How did you accomplish this? Hyan spoke for the first time, his voice deep and steady. We survived because we are resilient. We adapt. We overcome. These are qualities we can offer the Federation if given the chance. Vorith's mandibles clicked again. Or these qualities make you dangerous. Species that survive repeated apocalypses often develop concerning traits: aggression, paranoia, capacity for extreme violence. The Federation must know what we are accepting into our society. Minho met Vorith's multiple eyes without flinching. Then get to know us gradually, as friends do. Judge us by our actions, not by demands for total submission. Humanity offers cooperation, friendship, and partnership. But we will not strip ourselves bare for inspection like specimens in a laboratory. The chamber erupted in voices speaking dozens of languages, all mixing together in a cacophony of debate. Some delegates seemed impressed by human boldness. Others appeared offended or frightened. The High Council conferred among themselves, their discussion hidden behind privacy screens. After several long minutes, the screens dropped. Vorith spoke again, his tone colder than before. The Federation Council has deliberated. We will allow humanity a provisional observation period. You may maintain your secrets for now. However, understand this, humans. The Federation has stood for millions of years because we trust each other completely. Your refusal to trust us will be noted. We will be watching your species very carefully. Minho bowed again. That is all we ask, Counselor. The opportunity to prove ourselves worthy of trust. As the 3 humans left the chamber, Yuna whispered to Minho, They are afraid of us. Did you see it in their body language? Minho nodded slightly. Yes, they have never encountered a species that said no. We have just done something unprecedented. Hyan added in a low voice, Unprecedented usually means dangerous. We need to be very careful going forward. Behind them, they did not see Vorith watching their departure with his multiple eyes gleaming. He turned to his fellow counselors and spoke words that would change everything. They are hiding something significant. We must discover what humanity does not want us to know before it is too late. 3 months passed since humanity's first appearance before the Federation Council. In that time, an uneasy relationship developed between Earth and the galactic community. Human ships began making regular visits to Federation space stations. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchanges were planned. On the surface, everything appeared normal. But beneath the diplomatic pleasantries, tension grew like a crack in ice dot in the intelligence division of the Federation. Analysts worked day and night trying to understand humanity. They sent observation drones into human territory, disguised as space debris or asteroids. The drones carried the most advanced sensors in the galaxy, capable of detecting everything from radio signals to quantum fluctuations. Yet something strange kept happening. The drones would enter human space and simply disappear. No distress signals, no debris. They just vanished as if they had never existed. Commander Hyon stood on the bridge of the human cruiser Taekwondo, watching the main display. His crew worked efficiently around him, monitoring dozens of systems at once. A junior officer approached and saluted. "Commander, we detected another probe entering Sector 7. Same configuration as the previous ones." Hyon nodded slowly. "Inform Agent Ji-woo. Let her handle it." Aboard a small stealth ship hidden in the shadow of a gas giant, Ji-woo smiled as she tracked the Federation probe. She was one of Earth's top intelligence operatives, trained in both conventional and unconventional warfare. The probe thought it was being clever, using passive sensors to avoid detection. It had no idea that human ships could detect quantum, disturbances that Federation technology considered impossible to track. Ji-woo activated her ships, communication laser, and sent a tight beam message directly to the probe. The message was simple: "We see you. Stop looking, or we will show you something you will not like." Then she activated a device that generated an electromagnetic pulse, frying the probe's circuits. Another piece of Federation technology, turned into useless metal floating in space. She knew the Federation would receive the probe's last transmission. They would see her message. Good. Let them wonder what humans meant by that threat. Back at the Federation capital, Counselor Voreth reviewed the latest intelligence reports with growing frustration. Out of 37 reconnaissance probes sent into human territory, 37 had been destroyed or captured. Human ships moved through space using propulsion systems that should not work according to known physics. Human colonies existed on worlds that were classified as completely uninhabitable, and human soldiers survived in conditions that would kill any other known species. He called an emergency session of the Intelligence Committee. "We need answers. What are humans hiding?" A Federation scientist, a reptilian creature named Kelf, stood to present his findings. "Counselor, we have analyzed what little data we recovered before the probes were destroyed. Human ships contain massive sections that our sensors cannot penetrate. They are shielded by something we cannot identify. We tried scanning with quantum resonance, gravitic waves, even exotic radiation. Nothing works. It is as if those sections of the ship exist outside normal space." Voreth's mandibles clicked rapidly. "That is impossible. No species has technology that can completely block Federation sensors." "Yet humans do," Kelth replied. "There is more. We obtained biological samples from a human colony, medical waste that was disposed of in space. Analysis shows their genetic structure contains modifications we cannot fully understand. Their bodies are reinforced at the cellular level with some kind of artificial enhancement. Their immune systems are orders of magnitude more aggressive than any natural evolution would produce. And most disturbing, their brain structure shows no evidence of a fear response inhibitor." Another counselor, a peaceful species called the Luminar, spoke up. "What does that mean, exactly?" Kelf paused before answering. "It means humans may not be capable of experiencing fear the way we do. Or if they do feel fear, it does not stop them from acting. This would explain the historical records we have of human warfare. They fight with a ferocity that seems to ignore their own survival." The chamber filled with worried whispers. Voreth demanded silence. "We must confront them directly. Ambassador Minho has agreed to give a presentation about human evolution and biology. Perhaps he will reveal something useful." The next day, Minho stood before a smaller assembly of Federation scientists and officials. Beside him was Dr. Tyke, one of Earth's leading xenobiologists. Tyke was a calm, elderly man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Thank you for allowing me to speak today, Tyke began. I want to help you understand humanity by explaining our world. Earth is what we call a death world. The term probably does not exist in Federation classification because most of you evolved on peaceful planets. Earth was never peaceful. He activated a holographic display showing Earth in its various evolutionary periods. Our planet went through multiple mass extinctions, asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, climate shifts that happened so rapidly that most life could not adapt. Humans evolved during the most recent ice age, a period of extreme hardship. We survived by being adaptable, intelligent, and most importantly, cooperative. A Federation scientist raised a tentacle. But our records show humans were also extremely violent toward each other. How do you reconcile cooperation with constant warfare? Tyke smiled slightly. That is the paradox of humanity. We cooperate intensely within our groups, but compete violently between groups. This dual nature made us both our own greatest enemy and our own greatest ally. We learned to work together while also learning to fight with devastating effectiveness. We became very, very good at both. Voreth interrupted. Your presentation is interesting, Doctor, but it does not explain the technological anomalies we have detected. Your ships move in ways that violate known physics. Your soldiers survive conditions that should be lethal. What are you not telling us? Minho stepped forward. Counselor Voreth, we have been honest with you. We have shared our history, our biology, our culture. What you are seeing is simply the result of humans adapting to challenges in ways that may differ from other species. Is it so surprising that we developed different solutions to the same problems? Yes, it is surprising, Voreth said coldly. It is suspicious. We believe you possess weapons of mass destruction that you are hiding from the Federation. We believe your technology is far more advanced than you admit. We believe you are a threat. The room fell silent. This was the accusation everyone had been thinking, but no one had dared voice directly. Minho looked at Voreth for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. Counselor, you are correct that we possess significant capabilities. You are correct that we have not shared everything with the Federation. But you are wrong about why. We are not hiding weapons. We are hiding restraint. What does that mean? Voreth demanded. It means, Minho said softly, that humanity has learned something the hard way. Power without wisdom is destruction. We have capabilities that frighten us. We have developed technologies that could cause tremendous harm, and we have chosen not to use them. We keep secrets not because we fear you, but because we fear ourselves. We are still learning to be worthy of the power we possess. Yuna added, humanity offers the Federation something unique. We offer the perspective of a species that has looked into the abyss and pulled itself back. We offer the knowledge of how to survive impossible odds. But we cannot offer that freely until we know the Federation respects us as equals, not suspects us as criminals. Voreth stood abruptly. The Federation Council will discuss this further. This meeting is adjourned. As the delegates filed out, a Federation historian approached Tyke privately. She was an ancient being, one of the oldest living creatures in the galaxy. Doctor, I have been researching your species. I found something in the ancient archives. There are ruins on a dead world in the outer rim. The civilization that built them left warnings carved in stone, preserved for millions of years. The warnings speak of a species from a yellow star. They say these beings do not conquer, they endure. They say when all others have fallen, these beings will remain. I believe they were talking about humans. Tyke looked at her with those sharp eyes. What happened to the civilization that left the warning? They went extinct 3 million years ago, she replied. We do not know how or why. Tyke nodded slowly. Then perhaps their warning was worth heeding. The Federation was fracturing, and everyone knew it. What began as simple suspicion about humanity had grown into something far more serious. Species that had cooperated for millennia now argued openly about what to do with these mysterious newcomers. The debate consumed the council chambers, spilled into public forums, and dominated every news broadcast across Federation space. 3 distinct factions emerged from the chaos. The first called themselves the Acceptance Faction, led by the Luminar species. They believed humanity should be welcomed despite their secrets. They argued that diversity of thought and approach strengthened the Federation, and that fear was a poor foundation for diplomacy. The second faction, led by Vorath, called themselves the Containment Faction. They wanted humanity quarantined until every secret was exposed. They proposed establishing a military perimeter around human space, preventing any human ship from entering Federation territory without thorough inspection. They spoke of safety and security, of protecting the Federation from unknown threats. The third faction was smaller but growing. They called themselves the Preservation Faction, though others whispered a different name, the Elimination Faction. They believed humanity represented an existential threat that could not be managed through containment. They spoke in coded language about preemptive action and necessary measures. Minho stood in his quarters aboard the diplomatic station orbiting the Federation capital, reviewing the latest intelligence reports. Yuna sat across from him, her expression troubled. "The Elimination Faction tried to kill you yesterday," she said bluntly. "The evidence is clear. That transport malfunction was not an accident." Minho nodded slowly. He had suspected as much. The transport pod that was supposed to carry him to a diplomatic function had experienced a sudden loss of structural integrity. If his bodyguard Dane had not pulled him out at the last second, Minho would have been exposed to the vacuum of space. "How did Dane know?" Yuna asked. "The failure happened in less than a second. No one should have had time to react." Minho looked at her steadily. "Because Dane has augmentations we have not disclosed. Reaction time enhancements, predictive neural software, reinforced skeletal structure. He is what we call a guardian, specially modified to protect high-value individuals. He saw the structural stress patterns before the pod failed and reacted accordingly. The Federation will want to know how he moved so fast." "Let them wonder," Minho replied. "Though I suspect they will figure it out eventually." They were right to suspect. Federation intelligence had recorded the entire incident from multiple angles. Analysts watched the footage over and over, slowing it down frame by frame. What they saw defied explanation. Dane moved with speed that should have been impossible for a biological creature. His hand was already reaching for Minho before any visible sign of malfunction appeared. It was as if he could see the future. But even more disturbing was what happened next. When investigators examined the wrecked transport pod, they found something that made no sense. The structural failure had been caused by sabotage, a sophisticated device that weakened the hull. But the device had been fried by an electromagnetic pulse moments after it activated. Security footage showed no one near the pod except Dane and Minho. Somehow, the humans had detected the sabotage device and destroyed it. All in the span of a single second, the incident forced the Elimination Faction into the open. Their existence had been rumored, but never proven. Now, with evidence of an assassination attempt, they could no longer hide. The Federation Council erupted in accusations and counter-accusations. Species that had been allies for centuries now questioned each other's loyalty. Meanwhile, Commander Hyan dealt with his own problems. A data breach had occurred on one of Earth's secure networks, and his military records had been stolen. Now those records were circulating through Federation intelligence channels. And what they revealed was causing panic. Hyan's single quotes S-combat history showed he had participated in 73 major military operations over his 30-year career. In those 73 operations, over 40,000 combatants had died. Haiyan was not responsible for all those deaths, of course, but he had been present for every one. He had walked through battlefields that killed thousands, and he had walked away with minor injuries. Federation military analysts could not understand how this was possible. They ran simulations using Haiyan's records, trying to recreate his survival rate. The simulations showed that any Federation soldier placed in the same situations would have died at least 20 times over. Yet Haiyan had survived everything, from orbital bombardments to close-quarters combat to chemical attacks. A Federation general named Korthos met with his staff to discuss the implications. I have studied the human commander's records thoroughly. I cannot explain his survival. According to probability, he should be dead many times over. Either he is the luckiest being in the galaxy, or humans possess capabilities we cannot detect. Perhaps their biological enhancements include luck, one of his officers joked nervously. Korthos did not smile. There is something else. Look at his brain scans, taken during medical examinations. Notice anything unusual? The officers studied the scans. One finally spoke up. His fear response centers show minimal activity, even during combat operations. It is as if he does not feel fear. Not does not feel, Korthos corrected. Cannot feel. Or rather, can feel it, but is not controlled by it. Humans seem to experience fear differently than we do. For us, fear is a survival mechanism that tells us to retreat. For humans, fear appears to be just another piece of information. They acknowledge it and then act anyway. Dr. Suji gave a lecture to the Federation Academy of Sciences around this same time. She was a small woman with a gentle voice, but her words carried the weight of uncomfortable truth. Humanity is born in pain, she began. Human birth is one of the most dangerous processes in the natural world. Our infants are helpless for years, unable to survive without constant care. Our childhood is filled with injuries, illnesses, and hardships. We grow up learning that pain is normal, that struggle is expected, that comfort is temporary. She showed images of human history on the holographic display. Wars, famines, plagues, disasters. This is not metaphor. This is biology. Human nervous systems are designed to handle extreme stress. Our brains can compartmentalize trauma and continue functioning. Our bodies can suppress pain through sheer willpower. We evolved these capabilities because we needed them to survive. A Federation scientist asked, "But surely this made your species mentally unstable? Such constant trauma should create psychological damage." Suji smiled sadly. It does. Humans suffer from many psychological disorders related to trauma and stress. But we also develop incredible resilience. We have a saying on Earth, "What does not kill us makes us stronger." It is literally true for humans. Exposure to hardship increases our ability to handle future hardship. We adapt. Back in the political realm, Yuna was orchestrating a masterpiece of diplomatic manipulation. She had spent weeks carefully gathering information on members of the containment faction, and now she struck. Evidence of corruption appeared in public forums, showing that several of Vorath's closest allies had been accepting bribes and manipulating contracts. The evidence was real, carefully leaked from sources Yuna had cultivated. The containment faction collapsed into infighting almost overnight. Species that had united in suspicion of humanity now turned on each other. Vorath found himself defending his allies rather than attacking humanity. The political landscape shifted dramatically. The Federation Council met for an emergency session. After days of heated debate, they passed a resolution. The Human Observation Protocol established a new status for Earth. Humanity would neither be fully accepted into the Federation nor rejected. Instead, They would exist in a state of supervised observation. Human ships could travel through Federation space, but they would be monitored. Human technology could be traded, but only after inspection. Humans could attend council sessions, but they could not vote. Minho accepted the resolution with apparent grace, though privately he knew it changed nothing. Humanity had not sought Federation approval, only Federation contact. This compromise gave Earth everything it actually wanted, while allowing the Federation to save face. But the Federation, archaeological discovery changed everything. A team excavating ruins on a dead world called Remnant X made an impossible finding. The ruins were old, millions of years old, from a civilization that had vanished long before any current Federation species had evolved. The ruins contained warnings, carved in stone and preserved in vacuum. The writing was in multiple languages, some known and others extinct for eons. The warnings all said variations of the same thing. Beware the inheritors of the third world from the yellow star. They do not conquer, they endure. When stars grow cold and empires turn to dust, they will remain. They are patient. They are relentless. They are inevitable. The archaeological team sent images of the carvings to the Federation Council. Linguists and historians argued about the translation, but the meaning was clear. Somehow, millions of years ago, another civilization had encountered humanity or predicted their eventual emergence. And that civilization had been frightened, enough to leave permanent warnings. Vorath showed the images to Minho in a private meeting. Explain this, Ambassador. How did an extinct civilization know about your species? Minho studied the carvings carefully. His face revealed nothing. I cannot explain it, Counselor. Perhaps they encountered another species with similar characteristics. Perhaps it is coincidence. Perhaps their predictions were simply wrong. You do not seem surprised, Vorath observed. I am curious, Minho corrected, but not surprised. The galaxy is very old and very large. Many strange things have happened in its history. This is just one more mystery among countless others. After Minho left, Vorath sat alone in his office, staring at the images. The warnings disturbed him deeply, not because they predicted humanity's endurance, but because they were warnings at all. The extinct civilization had felt the need to warn others. What had they seen or experienced that drove them to leave such a message? And why had they gone extinct while humans survived? The Federation had decided to test humanity, though they called it something else. They called it a readiness assessment or a capability demonstration. But Minho and his team knew the truth. The Federation wanted to see what humans would do when faced with an existential threat. The test was designed to appear accidental. A human colony world called Tijin 7 would come under attack by the Ravager Swarm, a species of mindless but deadly creatures that consumed everything in their path. The Ravagers were a known threat that the Federation had been fighting for thousands of years. They reproduced rapidly, attacked without warning, and showed no mercy or intelligence. They were the galaxy's ultimate natural disaster. What the Federation did not tell humanity was that they had deliberately driven a Ravager hive toward Tijin 7. They had used sonic weapons, chemical trails to redirect the swarm's migration path. It was not technically an act of war, since the Ravagers were not controlled by anyone, but it was absolutely an act of manipulation. Federation observers positioned themselves in nearby star systems, ready to record everything that happened. Governor June administered Tijin 7, a colony of 30,000 humans living on a harsh but habitable world. The planet had minimal defenses because it was far from any conflict zones. When the sensors detected the approaching Ravager swarm, June immediately sent a distress call to Earth and activated the colony's emergency protocols. The Ravager swarm numbered in the millions. They traveled through space in massive organic ships grown from their own bodies. Each Ravager was about the size of a human, with multiple limbs ending in razor-sharp claws, armored carapaces that could deflect most energy weapons, and acid-based biological weapons that could melt through metal. Individually, they were dangerous. In millions, they were unstoppable. The Federation observers expected humans to immediately request assistance. Protocol dictated that any species facing a Ravager swarm should call for backup from the nearest Federation battle fleet. Engaging a swarm with less than 5 capital ships and 20,000 soldiers was considered suicide. The Federation was prepared to intervene and save the human colony, turning the test into a lesson about the necessity of Federation protection. But humans did not request assistance. Instead, Commander Hyan arrived at Taijin 7 with a single cruiser and 200 Marines. The Federation observers could not believe what they were seeing. One ship against a Ravager swarm was not just insufficient, it was absurd. They contacted Hyan directly, offering to send help. Hyan politely declined. "We appreciate the concern," he said calmly, "but we have the situation under control. Please maintain your distance for your own safety." The Ravagers struck Taijin 7 like a wave of death. They descended on the colony from orbit in massive drop pods made of hardened organic matter. Millions of creatures fell from the sky, screaming their hunger. The colonial defense turrets opened fire, killing thousands in the first minutes. But thousands meant nothing when millions remained. Commander Hyan deployed his 200 Marines in a defensive perimeter around the colony's main settlement. 200 soldiers against millions of enemies. The mathematics made no sense. The Federation observers prepared to witness a massacre and were ready to transmit rescue ships the moment human lines broke. The human lines did not break. What happened instead would be analyzed by Federation military academies for years to come. The Marines fought with a coordination that seemed impossible. They moved as if connected by a single mind, each soldier knowing exactly where every other soldier was positioned. They used weapons the Federation had never seen before, kinetic accelerators that fired solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. Each shot punched through multiple Ravagers, and the Marines never seemed to miss. But the weapons were not the most disturbing part. The way humans fought was what truly frightened the observers. They showed no hesitation, no fear, no exhaustion. When a Ravager broke through the perimeter and engaged a Marine in close combat, the Marine would switch to hand-to-hand fighting without pause. Humans broke Ravager limbs with their bare hands, dodged attacks that should have been too fast to see, and continued fighting even when wounded. One Federation observer, a species called the Krenth, transmitted a real-time report to the Council. His voice shook as he spoke. "They are not fighting like soldiers. They are fighting like demons who remember being prey. They fight with joy. I can see it in their movements, hear it in their communications. They are enjoying this." The battle continued for 72 hours without pause. Human Marines fought continuously without rest, without food, without apparent fatigue. Federation biology said this was impossible. All known species required rest cycles, even in combat. Neural pathways would degrade, muscles would fail, cognitive function would collapse. But humans just kept fighting. The civilian colonists of Taijin 7 evacuated to underground bunkers as planned. But something unexpected happened. Some civilians refused to evacuate. They took up weapons from the colony's emergency armory and joined the Marines on the defensive line. These were not trained soldiers. They were farmers, teachers, engineers, children as young as 15. Yet they fought alongside the Marines with the same relentless determination. Governor June herself stood on the wall with a rifle, shooting Ravagers as they charged. She had never received military training, but humans apparently did not need training to know how to fight. It was instinctive, hardwired into their biology through millions of years of evolution. By the end of the third day, the Ravager swarm was destroyed. Millions of creatures lay dead around the colony. The human casualties were 6 Marines killed and 23 wounded. Among the civilian volunteers, 12 had died and 31 were injured. In total, humanity had lost 18 lives out of the 238 who fought. The Federation observers were stunned into silence. In a typical Ravager encounter, Federation forces expected 40 to 60% casualties, even with overwhelming numerical superiority. Humans had suffered less than 8% casualties while being outnumbered 5,000 to 1. General Korthos reviewed the battle data personally. He ran simulations, analyzed tactics, studied the weapon systems. Nothing made sense. Human weapons were not particularly advanced. Their ships were adequate, but not exceptional. Their numbers were laughably insufficient. Yet they had achieved what should have been impossible. He found the answer in the detailed sensor logs. Human soldiers had been operating at only 40% of their physical capacity throughout the entire battle. Adrenaline monitors, muscle stress indicators, neural activity scans all showed that humans were holding back significantly. They could have fought harder, faster, longer. They chose not to. One particular incident captured on video haunted Korthos. A Marine had been surrounded by 30 Ravagers. Her armor was damaged. Her weapon was out of ammunition. The Ravagers closed in for the kill. Then the Marine smiled. Korthos watched that smile over and over, trying to understand it. It was not the smile of someone accepting death. It was the smile of someone who was about to enjoy themselves. The Marine had proceeded to kill all 30 Ravagers with her bare hands and a combat knife. She moved with inhuman speed and precision, never wasting emotion, never showing fear or doubt. When reinforcements arrived, she was covered in Ravager blood and still smiling. Korthos transmitted his analysis to the Federation Council with a simple conclusion. Humans are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. They do not fight to survive. They fight because they are built to fight. Combat is not a desperate act for them. It is a natural state. After the battle, Commander Hyan gave a brief statement to the Federation observers who had witnessed everything. Thank you for your concern during the incident. As you can see, the colony is secure. The Ravager threat has been neutralized. We appreciate the Federation's willingness to assist, but it was not necessary. The lead observer, a Krenth named Veleth, asked the question everyone wanted answered. Commander, how did you accomplish this? Your forces were insufficient, according to all military doctrine. You should not have survived. Ken looked at him with calm, dark eyes. We survived because we fought. We fought because we had no other choice. And when humans have no other choice, we become what we need to become. In this case, we needed to be killers. So we were. But the casualties, Veleth insisted. You lost so few. Every life lost is a tragedy, Hyan replied. But yes, our casualties were minimal. We train for this, Veleth. Not just our soldiers, but our entire species. We train to survive impossible odds, because our entire history has been impossible odds. This battle was difficult, but we have faced worse. When? Veleth asked. When have humans faced worse than a Ravager swarm? Hyan's expression did not change. When we faced each other, the words hung in the air like a physical presence. The observers understood the implication. Humans had developed these capabilities fighting other humans. Everything they had witnessed, the coordination, the relentlessness, the joy in combat, all of it was refined through fighting their own species. Veleth transmitted one final message to the Federation Council that night. We tested humanity to see if they were as dangerous as we feared. We were wrong. They are far more dangerous than we imagined. The question is no longer whether we should fear them. The question is whether we can afford not to have them as allies. Governor June stood on the wall of her colony, looking at the fields of Ravager corpses stretching to the horizon. Beside her, one of the young volunteers who had fought spoke quietly. "Governor, the Federation was watching us, were they not?" This was a test. June nodded. "Yes, they wanted to see what we would do. What do you think they learned?" June smiled slightly. "They learned that humans do not quit. They learned that we fight when others would flee. And they learned that trying to manipulate us was a mistake they should not repeat. Will they attack us now? Out of fear? Maybe," June admitted. "Or maybe they will finally understand that we are not their enemies. We are what they need us to be. Right now, they need us to be warriors. Tomorrow, they might need us to be something else. Humans are good at being what is needed." The young volunteer looked at the governor with newfound respect. "You sound like you have done this before." "Every human has done this before," June replied. "In one way or another, we have all fought battles we should not have survived. That is what makes us human." The Federation Council chamber had never been so crowded. Every delegate from all 847 species had gathered for this emergency session, and thousands more attended virtually from across the galaxy. The topic was simple and terrifying: what to do about humanity. Counselor Vorth called the session to order, his multiple eyes scanning the assembled delegates. "We have reached a critical moment in Federation history. The human species has proven itself capable of extraordinary violence and deception. Their performance against the Ravager swarm demonstrates military capabilities far beyond what they revealed. The test on Taijin 7 was meant to assess their readiness. Instead, it revealed that we do not understand them at all." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The video footage from Taijin 7 had been distributed to every council member. Many had watched it dozens of times, trying to comprehend what they had witnessed. "Ambassador Mino has agreed to address the council," Vorth continued. "He claims humanity is ready to reveal the truth about their capabilities. Whether we believe him or take action against his species will depend on what he says today. Ambassador, the floor is yours." Minho walked to the center of the chamber, followed by his entire team. Yuna, Hyun, Suji, Jiwoo, and Dane arranged themselves behind him. They stood together, a unified front against the galaxy. Minho looked around the vast chamber, meeting the eyes and optical sensors and sensory organs of creatures from 1,000 worlds. When he spoke, his voice was calm but carried to every corner of the room. "Honored delegates, you want to know our secrets. You want to understand how humanity fights, how we survive, why we behave differently from other species. You have asked us repeatedly to explain ourselves. Today, we will answer your questions completely and honestly. But understand that once you know our secrets, you cannot unknow them. The truth about humanity may change how you see us forever." He gestured to Dr. Suji, who stepped forward and activated a holographic display. "Our first secret is biological," she began. "Humanity has no genetic programming for surrender. Every Federation species we have studied possesses what we call a submission response. When faced with overwhelming threat, your bodies and minds trigger mechanisms that make you stop fighting. You freeze, you submit, you accept defeat. This is not weakness. It is a survival mechanism that evolved to preserve your species." The holographic display showed comparative brain scans of various species, highlighting specific neural structures. "Humans do not have this mechanism," Suji continued. "When threatened, our bodies trigger fight or flight responses, but the flight option is not submission. It is retreat to regroup and fight again. We have no biological off switch. We can be killed, but we cannot be made to surrender through biology alone. Surrender is a conscious choice for humans, not an automatic response. The chamber erupted in shocked discussion. Suji waited for silence before continuing. This means humans will fight even when fighting is illogical. We will resist even when resistance is futile. We will struggle until our last breath, because our biology gives us no other option. Agent Ji Woo stepped forward next. Our second secret is evolutionary. Humans are persistence predators. Before we developed tools and weapons, we hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We cannot run as fast as most animals, but we can run longer than anything else on Earth. We can maintain pursuit for hours, for days if necessary. We do not give up. She showed videos of human endurance feats from Earth history. Humans running hundreds of kilometers. Humans surviving in extreme conditions. Humans accomplishing tasks that should have been impossible. This psychology shapes everything about us, Jiwoo explained. When humans decide to do something, we do not stop until it is done. We do not accept failure as permanent. Every setback is temporary. Every defeat is just a pause before we try again. The Federation has never encountered this before, because most species know when to quit. Humans do not. Dr. Tyke spoke next about the third secret. Humans are adapted for betrayal and deception. We evolved in tribal societies where cooperation within the group was essential, but competition between groups was constant. We developed the ability to read facial expressions, detect lies, manipulate others, and wage psychological warfare. Every human child learns these skills naturally. We can cooperate deeply with allies while simultaneously planning for the possibility of betrayal. He showed data about human social structures, game theory, and strategic thinking. This makes humans exceptional diplomats and exceptional spies. We understand deception on an instinctive level. We can build trust while maintaining suspicion. We can be loyal friends and dangerous enemies simultaneously. Most species are either trusting or suspicious. Humans are both at once. Commander Hyan stepped forward for the fourth revelation. The chamber fell especially silent. Everyone had seen his combat record. Our fourth secret is our relationship with pain, Hyan said simply. He held up his hand and without warning, bent his smallest finger backward until it broke with an audible snap. Delegates throughout the chamber gasped or made sounds of distress. Hyan's expression did not change. He continued speaking as if nothing had happened. Human nervous systems are redundant and resilient. We feel pain, but pain does not disable us. It focuses us. Every human experiences pain regularly from childhood. We learn to function through it. Our bodies release chemicals that suppress pain during stress. Our minds compartmentalize suffering. We can be injured and continue fighting because pain is familiar. It is part of life. He held up his broken finger. This will heal in 6 weeks. It hurts significantly, but it does not prevent me from doing my job. In combat, humans have been known to fight with broken bones, missing limbs, and mortal wounds. We do not stop because we are damaged. We stop only when we are dead. Several delegates looked like they might be sick. The casual breaking of his own bone had accomplished what no explanation could. They understood that humans had a different relationship with suffering than they did. Bane spoke next about the fifth secret. Humans possess imagination of horror. We do not just react to threats we can see. We imagine thousands of threats that do not exist. We plan for disasters that may never happen. We prepare for enemies we have not met. Human military doctrine includes planning for impossible scenarios because we know the impossible sometimes happens. He showed examples of human contingency plans. Plans for alien invasion written before humans knew aliens existed. Plans for nuclear war. Plans for asteroid impacts. Plans for scenarios so unlikely they should never be considered. This makes humans paranoid by most species standards, Dane admitted. But it also makes us prepared for anything. When the Ravager swarm attacked Tygen 7, we already had tactics and strategies developed for fighting insectoid swarms in hostile environments. We had trained for that exact scenario, even though we had never encountered Ravagers before. We imagine horror so we can survive it. Yuna presented the sixth secret. Humans possess controlled aggression. Most species experience aggression as a loss of control, a berserker state where rational thought ceases. Humans can channel violence while maintaining tactical thinking. We can be utterly ruthless while remaining strategically aware. We do not lose ourselves in rage. We weaponize it. She showed neurological scans of human soldiers during combat. Notice how the rational decision-making centers remain active even during intense violence. Humans are thinking while they fight, planning while they kill. This is why human tactics can seem cruel or excessive. We are not acting from instinct or emotion. We are applying violence with precision and purpose. Finally, Minho stepped forward again. The chamber was completely silent now. Every delegate waited for the final revelation. The seventh secret, Minho said quietly, is the one we have been most reluctant to share. Every capability you have learned about today, every adaptation, every biological advantage, we developed these to survive one thing. Not the environment of our world. Not predators or natural disasters. We developed these capabilities to survive other humans. He let that sink in before continuing. For 200,000 years, humanity's greatest threat was itself. We have been at war with each other for our entire existence. The reason we excel at violence is because we practiced on each other. Every weapon we invented, we first used against fellow humans. Every tactic we developed, we first tested in wars between human tribes and nations. We have killed more humans than any other cause of death in our history. The holographic display showed human wars through history. The scale of violence was staggering. Hundreds of millions dead in conflicts that spanned continents and centuries. We did not withhold our secrets because we feared you, Mignot said. We withheld them because we feared ourselves. We wanted to prove to ourselves that we had evolved beyond constant warfare before we proved to you that we were capable of it. We wanted to demonstrate restraint before we demonstrated power. He looked directly at Vorith. You asked what humans are hiding. We are hiding shame. We are hiding the knowledge that everything we are good at, we learned by being bad to each other. We are the most dangerous species in the Federation because we spent thousands of generations making ourselves dangerous to ourselves. The chamber remained silent. Some delegates looked horrified. Others looked thoughtful. A few looked afraid. But we have also learned something else, Mignot continued. We learned that being dangerous does not mean being destructive. We learned that power without wisdom leads only to mutual annihilation. We barely survived our own violence. We came close to destroying ourselves dozens of times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. We stood at the edge of extinction repeatedly and pulled ourselves back each time. Yuna added, this is what humanity offers the Federation. Not weapons, not tactics, not technology. We offer the hard-won knowledge of a species that learned to cooperate after spending millennia competing. We offer the perspective of a people who looked into the abyss and chose to step back. We offer the understanding that true strength is knowing when not to use power. Minho faced the assembled delegates. The Federation must now choose. You can accept humanity as equal partners with mutual respect and autonomy. Or you can attempt to contain us, isolate us, perhaps even try to eliminate us. Choose carefully, because if you choose conflict, you will discover what humans become when we stop holding back. You have seen us fight Ravagers. You have not seen us fight when we are actually trying. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. The chamber buzzed with anxious conversation. Counselor Vorth stood slowly. The council will now vote on human membership. All in favor of accepting humanity as full Federation members with equal rights and responsibilities, indicate your support. The voting lasted 3 hours. Delegates argued, caucused, and reconsidered. Finally, the results appeared on the main display. 763 species voted in favor of accepting humanity. 84 abstained. 0 voted against. Vorath announced the results, his voice carrying a mixture of resignation and perhaps relief. Humanity is accepted into the Galactic Federation as full members. Ambassador Minho, welcome. Minho bowed deeply. The people of Earth are honored. We will prove worthy of your trust. As the session ended and delegates filed out, Vorath approached Minho privately. You said humans have secrets. Did you tell us everything today? Minho looked at him with an expression that might have been a smile. We told you what you needed to know, Counselor. Some secrets are better learned through friendship than through fear. Vorath clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. What happens now? Now we work together, Minho replied. Humanity has learned many hard lessons about survival. We are willing to share that knowledge. Because one day, a threat will come that will test the entire Federation. When that day arrives, you will need a species that learned to thrive on a death world where the greatest predator was ourselves. That evening, aboard the human diplomatic ship preparing to return to Earth, Yuna asked Minho a question. Did we tell them everything? Minho looked at the classified files on his terminal. The files had titles like Project Eternity, Extended Human Lifespan Research, Neural Network, Collective Consciousness Experiments, Void Walkers, Humans Who Survived Hard Vacuum Exposure, and The Quiet War, What Really Happened in the 23rd Century. We told them what they needed to know, Minho said finally. Trust is built gradually. Today they learned we are dangerous. Tomorrow they will learn we are trustworthy. Eventually they will learn we are necessary. And if they find out about the other secrets? Minho closed the files. Then we will explain them the same way we explained these, with honesty, context, and the understanding that every species has darkness in its past. Humans are not perfect, but we are trying to be better. That effort, that constant struggle toward improvement, is perhaps the most human thing of all. Yuna looked out at the stars. Do you think we convinced them? I think we gave them hope, Minho replied. Hope that a species born in violence can choose peace. Hope that power can coexist with restraint. Hope that being dangerous and being good are not mutually exclusive. If humanity can offer the galaxy nothing else, we can offer that hope. The ship turned toward Earth, carrying humans who had changed the galaxy forever simply by being themselves. Behind them, the Federation began the long process of learning what it meant to have humans as allies. It would be a difficult lesson, full of surprises and challenges. But it would also be the beginning of something unprecedented, a galaxy united not by similarity, but by understanding that different kinds of strength could work together toward common goals. And in the deep archives of the Federation, the ancient warnings from the extinct civilization remained. They do not conquer, they endure. The words had been meant as a warning, but perhaps they were something else. Perhaps they were a promise that when everything else failed, when all other species faltered, humanity would still be standing. Not because they were stronger or smarter or better, but because they simply refused to quit. That refusal, that stubborn human determination, would become the galaxy's greatest asset in the challenges to come.